On a question, I call the member for Melbourne.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Planning. Sitting on the Minister's desk at the moment is an application from Viva Energy to build a new gas terminal at Corio Bay. There has been huge community opposition to this project. Victoria cannot meet our emission reduction targets if this new gas project is approved. Will the Minister reject Viva's application for a new fossil gas project here in Victoria?
Minister for Planning.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the member for her question. This is my first question in this place, and I'm delighted to be here as the Minister for Planning. And we know that planning really just captures the hearts and minds of all communities. It impacts the future livability of our state, of our communities. We heard some fantastic inaugural speeches in here that spoke about good planning, the need for good planning to develop and to foster healthy communities and support the well-being of those communities as well. When planning is done well, it does support those communities. When planning is done poorly, it can have a negative impact on those communities through the health and well-being. We on this side and my department take a responsible approach to planning. Matters are considered on the merits as is appropriate. Stakeholder views are taken into account. In relation to the Viva Energy application, I can let the member know that a report from the Independent Inquiry and Advisory Committee has been received and has advised that there is not enough information to determine whether that project has an acceptable or an unacceptable level of environmental impact. I've been left with no choice, and I have sent letters to this effect. I've been left with no choice but to advise Viva that an additional environmental effects statement will need to be prepared. The committee's report will be publicly released. It is then up to the proponent whether it wishes to embark on that further environmental effects statement, and I will leave that entirely with the proponent in this case.
Order. 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 Member for Barwon South. Order. Member for Melbourne on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the Minister very much for her answer. The proposed project will either import fracked gas from other states or re-import gas from Victoria that was originally sent to Queensland for export. This obviously produces emissions all along the supply chain in the mining, the transport and the burning of the gas. The government doesn't actually have to take into account our emission reduction targets when deciding on the outcome of the project because the project was proposed before the emission targets were set. But the Minister does actually have the discretion to consider emission reduction targets if she chooses. Will the Minister take into account Victoria's emission reduction targets in deciding ultimately if the project does go ahead or not?
Minister for Planning. Without assistance. Member for South Barwon is warned again.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the member for her supplementary question. I think the response to the main principal question has answered the matter adequately here. As I said, the advisory committee came back to say that there was insufficient information in this case to determine whether the project had an acceptable or unacceptable level of environmental impact. In this case, I had no choice but to go back to Viva to say, if you want to pursue and proceed with this project, you will need to conduct a supplementary EES. There's nothing further we can add to that. Let's go.